Today, I messed up by infuriating my girlfriend's parents. I pretended not to know what a potato was. My girlfriend, by the way, is only my second girlfriend in my life, said that I was invited to her home for dinner with her parents. I was panicking, very nervous and embarrassed, but I understood that I couldn't refuse. It all started pretty well. I greeted them in a polite manner. But a little later, I came up with the idea to add a pinch of humor to make a good impression and show that I'm a fun and funny guy. The parents served baked potatoes, and I thought it would be wildly funny if I pretended I didn't know what a potato was. That's hilarious, right? Well, can I tell you? It turned out to be a complete failure. Let me tell you more. When I was given a potato on my plate, I made a very surprised face. I showed a mixture of confusion, slight shock, curiosity, and interest on my face. The parents noticed it, were puzzled, but said nothing. Then I blurted out, "It looks very interesting. What is it?" They suddenly stared at me, and Mom replied, "It's a baked potato." And I was like, "Oh, interesting. Baked. What did you call it?" She said, "Potato." I said, "Potato? Never heard of it. Looks appetizing." But here's the thing. The parents didn't take it as a joke, but as if I really didn't know what a potato was. And I was so ashamed, so awkward, that I just couldn't admit that it was a failed attempt to joke. So I continued to pretend that I really didn't know what a potato was. They asked me with great disbelief if I really didn't know what a potato was, that I had never even heard the word potato. I decided to continue my comedy and said, "Yes, I really have never heard of a potato in my life. And not only have I never eaten it, I didn't even know there was such a word." All this went on for some time. Because of my stupid antics, my girlfriend started acting very confused and ashamed. But the more persistently I pretended not to know what a potato was, the more her parents began to suspect that I did know what it was. Well, let me tell you, by this point, I had to fully commit to the role. I just couldn't admit it was a joke. Then the father really started to get angry. At some point, he said something like, "Enough already. You're just making fun of us. Admit it already." And I replied, "Sir, until today, I had not heard of the existence of potatoes. I still don't know what a potato is, except that it's some kind of product. I don't know what else to tell you." He got very angry. Then I took a bite of the potato and said in a high-pitched voice, "Strange taste." Then the father literally started yelling at me, and the mother kept repeating, "What are you doing?" My girlfriend went to another room. In the end, her dad told me to get the hell out of his house. And I said that it was irrational to treat me like this just because I had never heard of a potato. He didn't appreciate that, to put it mildly. Now, in correspondence, I continue to convince my girlfriend that I really don't know what a potato is. The only way to get out of this situation is to convince them that I really don't know what it is. I regret starting this mess, but there's no going back. I think she'll dump me anyway. Today, I messed up by farting in church. Like most similar stories, this incident happened many years ago, but I will never forget it. I was in a huge Catholic cathedral, in one of those unimaginably large and majestic buildings with marble floors and vaulted ceilings, so high that it feels like the heavens themselves are under its roof. You know, the type of church that can hold the whole town on Sunday. And it really holds the whole town. The acoustics there were amazing. Drop a pin, and the sound will be like a barrel of gunpowder exploding, amplified through a rock concert sound system. That's where I was. And believe me, these circumstances made the situation even worse. The priest had just finished his long, passionate sermon or lesson or lecture, whatever it's called among Catholics. I don't remember. I left religion behind a long time ago. And the whole church fell into silence and contemplation. I was sitting on the third pew from the end, almost at the very end, but in the center, at the main aisle that divides the church into left and right sides. Most importantly, I was sitting with other students who were bused to church every Sunday from the boarding school where I was studying then. I remember it as clearly as my own name, especially that my older brother was sitting next to me. Now, a little about us, students from the boarding school who were brought every Sunday. We were already in disgrace. Most of us didn't go there of our own free will, but at the urgency of our parents. Therefore, we were often the very same troublemakers who whisper, giggle, fidget, real outcasts of the back rows. But not on this day. On this day, we were polite, attentive, thoughtful. The sermon was touching and sincere. Its message, sad, melancholic, piercing, resonated with us. And when it ended, the priest asked for a moment of silence. And in that very moment, when even the air in the cathedral held its breath, I let out such an ominous and thunderous fart that this world had never heard before. It would have sounded loud in any room, but in such a cathedral, with its vaults, marble, and kilometers of space, its sound was amplified 100-fold. It reflected, ricocheted, damn it, from the wooden pew I was sitting on, and accelerated like a hurricane's shockwave that sweeps away everything in its path, and rolled through the cathedral thunderously, echoing for an eternity. And then, in the next moment, in the silence that followed this apocalypse, I made my little blasphemous ascension. The whole cathedral turned their heads to us, to the back row. There were creaks and rumbles, as if 1,000 Catholics simultaneously fidgeted to look at the culprit. And then I, without any hesitation, slowly raised my right hand and pointed to the left, at my brother. Later that day, he beat me up. Today, I messed up by bringing too much beer to the office party. 2 facts about me that are important in the context of this story. First, I was raised by an alcoholic father. Second, I don't drink at all myself. Last week, my boss asked me to buy drinks for our department's party. I said that maybe I wasn't the right person for that because I don't drink, and accordingly, I don't know what people usually like or how much to take in general. She replied, "Just buy something, everything will be fine," and gave me the corporate card. I tried to remember my childhood because, again, I don't drink myself. I didn't hang out in bars during my student years, and the only thing I can rely on in terms of quantity is my dad. I remembered that usually by the 6th beer, he became quite cheerful. It was such a common occurrence that my brother and I called it the smile after 6. True, he didn't always stop at 6. It happened that my father drank 10 or even more in a day. So I thought, well, Dad drank a lot, so it's probably normal for ordinary people to have 5 bottles per person, just 1 less than before his signature smile. To be sure, I called my older brother and asked if it would be okay to take 5 bottles per person for an office party. He replied, "Yeah, sounds pretty normal." There are 40 people in our department, so I bought about 34 packs of 6 bottles of beer. I took different ones. Well, why not? Yes, it was expensive, but this company spends a lot of money on all sorts of nonsense anyway. So I decided it was just the price of a party with alcohol. I loaded everything into the car. It took a long time. I drove to the office and dragged it all into the large conference room that was reserved for the party. The party itself was last night. I didn't stay very long. I chatted with the guys a little, checked in with the management, and then quietly slipped home. And this morning, I was greeted with messages from the boss. How much did you buy in general? There's a flood at the party. And finally, are there any in the closets too? Well, yes, when I brought all this stuff, there wasn't enough space on the tables, and I put the rest in the locker. I asked a couple of friends why she was so angry. They started laughing and reminded me that my dad is an alcoholic, and maybe I should have taken not 5 bottles per person, but 2, because that's a much more reasonable number for an